What's up guys, it's your host Spartanic Arts DXD, back with another high school DXD related video, and today we have What If Issei Was Broken. Let's try to hit 400 to 500 likes, and if you guys want to know exactly when I upload / my upload schedule, click the little blue button to become a channel member today, or literally the little blue button right next to the subscribe button, and it shows you, and basically I let you know my whole entire upload schedule, or when I'm going to be uploading these videos. My subscribers knew about a week in advance, or my channel members. I really do appreciate this. The story is called The Aura of a Broken Dragon. After his death on his date, Issei was changed in a way of being terrified of women, after being revived by Ddraig, who had forcefully changed Issei into a dragon. In his will, awakening the aura of a true dragon, Issei finally changed, and there was one thing that was for sure. He certainly wasn't ready to date anytime soon. The author of the story is Dat-Boi-Eraser, so go support him. And I really wanted to thank everybody for all the support that's been going on while I've been gone. I know it's been an extremely long time, but I won't bore you with the details. Through and through, I'm back and I'm completely okay. I really do appreciate. I think we're either about to hit 57,000 subs or did hit 57,000 subs. I hit 100,000 subscribers on my other channel, and I have a plaque now, so your boy's actually kind of official. It's pretty cool. Yeah, so that's pretty awesome. But let's go ahead, without any further intrusions, ladies and gentlemen, let's go and thank my Balance Breakers, or Juggernaut Drive members. My Juggernaut Drive members up first, which are Ant Lewis, Lachlan Yates, Refeek135, VR Wolf, and Dark Phoenix. And then my Balance Breakers: Jordan Pacho, Nate Ammo, Ziki2000, The Ghost of the Uchiha, Rob the King, Grimfire Shot Gamer, and Jeffrey. Thank you so much for becoming a Balance Breaker. It would really help the channel out if you were in the premiere right now, because this video is going to be coming out today. I'm recording it today, December 20th at 1:38 p.m. and it's going to be coming out at 6 p.m. If you're in the channel, please become a channel member, or if you would like to become a channel member, that'd be absolutely amazing. I'm not forced to do anything. It'd just be really cool for the support. If we hit 100 channel members, I'll have a huge movie coming out of a What If Issei movie. And yeah, so let's go and thank my Patreon members: David Tanner, Ryuga, Lachlan Yates, The Black Dragon Emperor, Godkiller, CK2000, Striperlanger, Mark Bacon, Sharklock, Jay Dawson, and Kefir Windsor. And what I do over there on my Patreon is I react to High School DxD, other animes, Dragon Ball Super, you get the point, etc. And then I sometimes post them over on Ampopowski as well. But I react to High School DxD, or I post private content on there, and possibly even a private what if it was ever requested. So also become a Patreon member if you want to see all that exclusive stuff. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and get into What If Issei Was Broken. Chapter 1. Broken. It was all that could be felt. Blood. It was all surrounded by the brunette. Why? It was that all he could think of. Keeping his eyes open, knowing that he was in dire pain, and was nearing the point of passing out, clenching his fists while trying to get up, forcing himself to slowly raise himself to the feet, while his vision began going red, his body shaking violently from the unfathomable pain that he was experiencing. Never was all that came out the boy's mouth. Pain was evident in his voice when he stood with great difficulty, a gap large enough to where anyone would be able to see the brunette's rib cage and his destroyed lungs, before he quickly dropped down to one knee from the bloodlust that was beginning to influence on him. With great effort, he quickly screeched, "Never! I won't die!" Issei gripped onto his knee before attempting to bring himself back up. What did I do to deserve this? He didn't remember much of what Yuma did, the woman that gave Issei his all to. Said when killing him, something about God giving him a gift. What gift was so precious that he had to die? Tears began streaming down the boy's face, tears of blood. There was no more holding back for the brunette. Breaking down onto the ground, Issei was finally meeting his inevitable end. Yuma, that sick woman, had destroyed the boy far more than what she would have thought. Why did she kill me? It was everything that he ever wanted. A woman that he could love, a woman that he could rely on, someone that he could feel passionate about, and someone that he could call his girlfriend. He made sure to make his entire afternoon the most perfect date imaginable. He spent all of his savings into his date. He even showered and brushed his teeth multiple times. Most importantly, he made sure to keep his perverted ambitions aside before going on this date. Yet it all came crashing down with one single phrase: "Will you die for me, or is there something I did wrong?" Taking a step forward, blood was spewing out of his mouth. The puddle of crimson blood began to darkening, with extra layer being added onto it. There wasn't much time before he would finally be passed onto the next world. Even through the pain, Issei didn't fall. "Buddy, don't fail me now." Thud. His body slowly began collapsing. His legs were beginning to feel too weak from the blood loss, and his body was indeed doing the opposite of what he wanted. However, Issei wasn't willing to die here just yet. Trying his best, Issei began stretching his hand towards the massive wound near his stomach. Reaching down to the hole, Issei touched the spot and brought his hand upward to see a blurry sight of his hand covered in dark crimson blood. He slowly gripped onto the pavement beside him, slowly losing his vision. It was all red. However, slowly, even the mightiest of wills won't be able to keep one alive. Sorry, Mom. Looks like I won't be coming home. Issei lightly chuckled with blood spewing out of his mouth. Slowly, Issei began dropping down even further to the ground. Sorry, Dad. Looks like I won't become the Harem King. That was when Issei finally lost the life in his eyes, closing his eyes before the darkness finally began enveloping him. The death of Issei Hyodo was brought to him by his dream, the dream of having a woman to love. However, this emotional event had awakened something that would change his life. So, this is my host, Ddraig. The heavenly dragon of domination had finally awakened. In a quick instant, Ddraig began going through the events that had led to this moment. To think that those fallen angels would do such a thing, sympathizing for the boy, who had been murdered by the woman that he loved. There's no possible way that I will allow for this to occur. With his own magic, even through the boosted gear, the dragon began manipulating the very essence of Issei Hyodo. The only way for Issei Hyodo to be revived was for his entire body structure to be rearranged from the inside out. Ddraig, with extreme concentration and precision, began doing just that. Slowly, Issei Hyodo's body began progressively changing from human to dragon. The very essence that made up Issei began changing with the energy that Ddraig was using to change Issei. With his soul still being the body, Ddraig was able to regenerate the damage done with massive amount of draconic energy that he had. Crack! The ground began shaking with the change that Issei began feeling. The new magical reserves Issei began releasing. It was far greater than whatever he had from before. Just from changing from human to dragon had brought many changes. However, what surprised even Ddraig, that was when turning his partner into a full-fledged dragon, the emotional damage that Issei had acquired from his state began manipulating his blood. Dragons were being fully composed of aura. Emotions were known for just drastically change the powers of the state of a dragon. But Issei was such a terrible situation. His emotions were scattered all over the place, with his heart shattered into a million little pieces. The sheer amount of darkness in Issei's emotions entirely changed Issei's power. Every dragon was unique in the way that obtained the principle that set out to own. Ddraig had awakened his aura at a certain age and obtained the aura of domination, his signature power. With this, he was renowned for obtaining the blazing inferno of scorching flames, the same flames that could turn the gods into ashes and burn their souls. However, this process doesn't occur for many until a far later age. Setting this occurred to his partner, who was a hatchling, had terrified his partner for the amount of emotional pain that his partner must have experienced. Dear Lord, this cannot be happening this early. Ddraig himself was completely blown away of how much the data destroyed Issei. To think, that damn fallen angel, Ddraig said. A roar could be heard through the proximity, with Draig's anger beginning to shake the area surrounding his partner, alerting a few other beings in the town. Slowly, a deep bluish aura began spreading throughout the brown-haired boy's body. The aura was giving the sensation of sadness and derived of happiness. The aura began melting the very ground that the boy was laying upon. If or not have been a dragon, then he would have been reduced to a puddle of his liquid. It was an aura that only dragons could awaken. Only the truest of dragons could awaken through many years of living, through a traumatic event that one should never experience. However, that wasn't all the changes that occurred. With the aura being full of sadness, it had begun changing Issei himself. Even after changing Issei into a dragon, Issei's body began changing for the worse. Ddraig was in a state of shock when seeing the one draconic body that was his partner beginning to change once more. Being tainted with darkness and the emotion of sadness, Issei began changing from a dragon into a being far darker. Once a dragon had experienced an event or gas, fallen into the temptation that drove them crazy. They had changed him into an evil dragon. The dragon type known for being psychotic and demented in the head. The dragon type that is filled with dragons, unable to stop battling even after their entire body being chopped into pieces. Ddraig, seeing this, knew that he would have to keep his partner in check because now he was struggling to go to be labeled as the enemy to all those in the supernatural world. The ancient dragon went back to the fact for Issei's draconic aura. The capabilities of the aura were still unknown, something that Ddraig must test once this partner awakens to see the principle of his partner was setting out to dominate. However, there were things that were far greater in value to the ancient dragon. Like his partner Savy, the aura of a broken dragon was all that came out of Draig's mouth, though the boosted gear. However, that was quickly scienced by Ddraig, who didn't want many conflicts with the others in the area. Ddraig would deal with this after he saved his partner from physical pain. Ddraig had sighed in relief. He wasn't going to allow for a crow to simply kill an innocent boy who had no connection with the supernatural world yet. It wasn't his time to leave this world. Ddraig knew that this was going to drain even his own energy. However, he didn't want for this boy to have such a pathetic death, especially when he was his partner and the one to carry out his name. Even if the boy was a lousy pervert that spied on a woman, there was always more to a person than what's just on the outside. Ddraig, most of all, knew that there was more to the man than his taste, especially seeing those many great feats and ideals that many of his previous hosts had shown. With the remaining energy that he had, Ddraig forcefully teleported Issei out of the open to his house. Issei Hyodo, I'm sorry for what has happened to you. It was my own fault of what I incurred. Speaking in a regretful tone, Ddraig slowly began feeling exhaustion, beginning to overcome him. To compensate, I'll be making sure you become someone who will be feared by the supernatural. With that, both partners were finally knocked unconscious, one from exhaustion while the other one was recovering from being revived. However, the energy signature didn't go unnoticed by some beings in the territory. Rias Gremory, known for being one of the great women in Ko, had sensed the energy burst from her room in the abandoned building besides the school building, widening her eyes when sensing the unstable, destructive energy, but that was when the energy signature suddenly vanished into nothingness. Akeno, Rias' queen, Peace, looked towards Rias without saying anything. Both locked eyes before nodding to each other. Rias, I'll go inform the others to investigate what the burst of energy was. Akeno quickly ran out of the room before Rias could even say anything. That wasn't the energy signature of a fallen angel, Rias questioned, before thinking to herself about what the energy signature could be done. There was no being in the school that was any other creature besides a human. That meant this being wasn't from school. She would need to be cautious. This day can't just get worse, can it? Rias says. That was when she received a communication circle near her ear. Rias, we have to investigate whoever that was. Rias sighed, knowing that she just jinxed herself. Alright, I'll be there. Knowing how Sona would act if she were to decline, Rias slowly began getting up and started walking until leaving the building through the main door. This was going to be a very boring day for her. However, that wasn't the only person that had sensed the change. In the cave filled with corpses stood one being, with two corpses in both hands. He simply clenched his fist, with enough force to cause the corpses to burst into absolute nothing but blood. The guts of his victims splattered all over the dark, disgusting surface that he stood on. With little to now fear evident on his face, the massacre of what he had brought onto his foes. This was the might of a true warrior. Sensing the disturbance, the creature began menacingly smirking that whoever this being that he was sensing was turned into an evil dragon, one of his own kind. Thud. Kicking away a tower of bodies in front of him, the creature continued walking away until there could be seen a bright passageway toward the outside world. His clots were filled with blood, dripping with each step that he took. Upon leaving the cave, with the sun finally shining upon his scaly body, the evil dragon was known for mass destruction and pure power, being feared for his aggression, power, and might. This evil dragon had reached the level of even surpassed the heavenly dragons. Upon standing on a ledge, the dragon looked up to the direction of where he sensed the disturbing power and roared with excitement. Looks like there's another one of us roaming around the lands above, Cromcrunch stated before taking flight to the sky. Let's see how far this hatchling will go before facing me. The dragon quickly flew towards a random direction of where his next victims would be. In the Hyodo house, after many hours had passed, both the young hatchling and the ancient dragon were both unconscious in their exhausted state. Ddraig was sleeping in the mind of the young hatchling and trying to regain the energy that he had lost saving his partner. But there are several others that feared for the young hatchling's health. A young woman that looked to be in her early 40s was seen entering the room that Ddraig had teleported the hatchling into, with her brown hair flowing back down to her neck with a worried look on her facial expression. She was the mother of the newest dragon. Issei's mother entered her son's room. It had been hours since her son had left for his first date. She was worried for his health of her boy, especially after the date in which she feared that he would soon come home a broken man. She doubted that a woman would randomly come up to her son and confess her feelings for him, especially knowing the reputation that her son had in school, something that she was very familiar with. However, once entering her son's room and seeing him lay there motionless, being slightly shocked and seeing her son simply sleeping on his bed, she quickly spoke out, "Issei, when did you come back from your date? Why didn't you tell me beforehand?" Issei's mother chuckled, with a small smile on her face, walking to her son and shaking him slightly. She wanted to know the details of Issei's date. However, Issei didn't move. "Issei?" continued to shake her son, with one becoming more violent than the other. "Issei!" Now she was beginning to worry for her son. Why wasn't he waking up? In a quick moment of panic, Issei's mother quickly rushed straight down the stairs to where her husband was sitting on the couch and watching the news. "Goro! Issei, he won't wake up. He's not moving either." The first thought that came to her mind was the worst. Tears began streaming down her face. This was her son, her only child. Miki Hyodo couldn't even handle watching her only child, one of her very few things she cherished in her life, be in any sort of harm. Seeing her child in such a state of not being able to respond to her calls was pushing her to serious levels of worry. After having to go through several miscarriages through her life, going through the pain of having those miscarriages, Issei was the first child that she had and loved. She loved Issei, even if he was more like her husband, a degenerate at times. Even then she loved him to no end. Seeing him potentially dead had immediately began causing her to overthink and panic. Her fragile mind began getting overwhelmed with the dark thoughts. Slowly she began grabbing onto her husband for support, or else she would have collapsed. "Girl, please call the ambulance," Miki began her husband. However, the declaration of his son's state from his wife had given him his other thoughts. Goro instantly, without any hesitation, rushed up the stairs to see his son on the bed. Quickly checking for any signs of breathing, he sighed in relief when sensing his son's breath. "What the hell happened?" Goro, beginning to shake his son, gained the same results from his wife and had done the same thing. "I don't know," tears streaming down her face while clinging to her husband. Miki Hyodo was living nightmare. He was just perfectly fine before his date, and I had found him lying face flat on the bed. In between pauses, Issei's mother began thinking of the worst. The date had meant so much for Issei. What if he was dumped and took things too far? "Call the ambulance!" Immediately, they called the hospital and Issei was brought to the hospital where he was treated. After what seemed like hours for the Hyodo couple, the doctor came out and sighed. "Your son, Issei Hyodo, is in a coma state. His body seems to have taken some serious internal damage. For now, he'll be needing to rest here at the hospital to recover until he wakes up." The doctor began showing some internal x-rays of how damaged Issei's body was. It didn't make sense. He was only on a date with a woman. How the hell did he get injured to be sent to the hospital? Miki, seeing her in her terrible state with eye bags and with tears flowing down her face, brought sympathy from the doctors. From what they had been told, this was their only son. "How long do you think it will take?" Miki said with a shaky voice. Spoke, attempting to immediately jump to the question that was on her mind. The doctor shrugged his shoulders. "We don't know. It could be in days, weeks, or even months. We'll inform you immediately of any progress." Miki Hyodo and Roro Hyodo began breaking down. It was only one day. One damn day they were a happy family eating their food at the dinner table. To now. Chapter 2. "Rainier, did you kill the human?" Another woman spoke to Rainier, with a bored expression printed on her face. Rainier grinned, remembering the absolute priceless facial expression that Issei Hyodo had when she had announced that she had made the date a farce. She had told herself from laughing in front of his face. Yeah, it was quite pathetic to see his condition after telling him everything was a lie. "You should have tried doing the date thing with him," Kala Warner. Kala Warner gave a look of disgust once hearing the suggestion. "Ew, I would never go out with a weak and disgusting human, ever." Come on, that satisfaction of destroying their dreams is worth it. Nope. Anyway, when will a nun arrive? I want to go back to the main base as quickly as possible. Don't worry. Fried said that she would be arriving in a few days. Then we would begin the extraction. Rainier devilishly said before walking away towards the other fallen angels. Carla Warner was only left thinking about what Rainier had said. Maybe she should try dating thing for experience. The fallen angels had continued initiating their plan, leaving the devils anonymous to their intentions. However, Issei was still stuck in his coma state. Days went by. School was normal. However, it was bizarre having the leader of the perverted trio absent for multiple days. Many, even if they didn't want to admit it, kind of missed the entertainment that was the young Hyodo brought back to school. Rias Grimri and Sonosichu were almost especially surprised with the news of Issei Hyodo being in a coma state. It was nearly impossible for the young Hyodo to survive an encounter with the fallen angels, but there was a possibility that he could have had a different accident. Weeks passed by. Nothing different occurred for the Hyodo family until, fluttering his eyes, opened to the blazing sun shining down upon his eyes, though the glossy window directly adjacent to the bed that he was resting upon. The white ceiling that he was slowly focusing on was becoming unfamiliar to him. Questions began popping up into his head while he began thinking to himself of how he got into the situation in the first place. This wasn't the sky. Was he in heaven? However, slowly with some time, he began regaining his senses, and heard a machine beside him. Turning his head with a different effort, he saw a monitor. Not just any plain monitor, it was a heartbeat monitor. Instantly, Issei began connecting the dots when he realized that he was in the hospital. Wait, what? What the hell? Issei gripped his head in pain. What bothered him was the most is that his eyes were seeing things far differently than usual. He was able to see far clearer than he remembered. Eventually, the doctors began entering the room while checking up upon him going through. Going through the entire process, he was deemed to have recovered from the immense internal damage that he received at the record timing. His parents had been notified that Issei would be going back to the day after in case if anything bad were to happen today. Slowly closing his eyes once more, Issei decided to rest for the entire day. This was too much. He remembered that woman had killed him in cold blood. But how was he even alive? Finally drifting away into a deep slumber, Issei continued to thinking to himself while drifting off to sleep. We finally meet at last. In front of him stood a massive crimson dragon, easily reaching some of the largest buildings that Issei had seen. Opening his mouth, crimson flames began enveloping the entire area of where the dragon stood. I am Ddraig. However, you may call me partner. Pride was all that Ddraig could feel when telling his partner who he was. Whoa, Issei said. Even through his dry tone, he was amazed at seeing a huge dragon. Even when he was fearful of the huge dragon in front of him, the amazement that he felt was still evident. Ddraig quickly looked at the changes that were evident in his partner, specifically the small draconic changes such as the sharpened pupils. Issei Hyodo, we have to talk about your supposed death. With that, the first conversation that Issei was going to have with the dragon was about the topic of that he feared the most. He would never want that topic to be brought up on a normal conversation basis. He was scared of talking about it. Where should I begin? Issei was still amazed by the sight of the dragon in front of him. It was something that he always wished that he could see ever since that he was a child, a fully grown-fledged dragon. Let's begin with the basic information. Ddraig continued speaking about the basics of the supernatural world. From the three factions and their weaknesses you see, partner. Let's begin with the basic information. Ddraig continued speaking about the basics of the supernatural world. From the three factions and their weaknesses you see, partner. Angels, fallen angels, and devils all exist from the Bible. All those creatures do indeed exist. Issei, knowing parts of these creatures thanks to childhood, friend of him speaking about those creatures nonstop, on instinct was immediately doubting such news. How could that have been real? However, beginning to properly process the information, he was murdered in cold blood by he was taking a guess, a fallen angel, and was revived by the same dragon in front of him. He was thinking that he should be far more open-minded with the information being told to him, since he knew jack shit about the supernatural world, and being in front of him may know nearly everything possible about the supernatural world. Ddraig, seeing the doubt in Issei's eyes beginning to disappear as his partner began thinking more thoroughly, was slightly impressed, but he should have known that this was going to happen since his partner met with a rude conference with a fallen angel. However, I'm pretty sure you've already seen enough to believe that. What I'm going to tell you is something far more interesting. Sacred gears. They are a gift from God. They are created to give humanity, your people, a chance in defending themselves and turning the tides in the battle of the supernatural world. That would mean the thing that Yuma said was true. Yes, the thing she said was true. I am your sacred gear, the boosted gear, one of the most powerful and most broken sacred gears to exist. It allows the user to be able to boost their power exponentially for as long as the host body can handle it. Let's give it a test run. With a snap of a finger, Ddraig had forcefully brought out the twice critical form of the boosted gear onto Issei's right hand. Did you feel the sensation of the gear appearing? Issei looked amazed, and seeing the gauntlet appearing, looking back up to the dragon, he nodded. Good, because you'll need to replicate this sensation when in the real world when attempting to use the gear. Boost! Holy shit, Issei began, feeling far more powerful than before. Slowly a small smirk began appearing on his face when feeling the power coursing through his entire body. This feels absolutely amazing. After a little while, boost! It happened again. Issei quickly began throwing some punches in the air to see the results. His punches were indeed far faster than before. Issei's mind was blown away by this revelation. Ddraig wanted to blow away Issei's mind even more, but he could already tell that Issei wasn't entirely paying attention to what he said about the power-up that the boosted gear brought to the table, which is why he was going to allow Issei to experience the boosted power in person. If you were your old self, this would have been your absolute limit. However, boost! Issei felt the same power. However, Issei thought that the power would have been multiplied onto him, but the power was exponentially increased. Instead of feeling a smaller increase of power from the second to the third boost, Issei had felt the same increase in power from the second to the third boost. Issei was thinking to himself for a moment, began thinking of a possible explanation for this phenomenon. Ddraig was slightly impressed with his partner in finding the true power of the boosted gear. I'm quite impressed with you. Partner, not only did you sense the same increase in power from the first boost to the second boost, but also the third boost to the fourth boost. If it isn't a simple boost in power and multiplies of 2, then that would mean... Issei's eyes widened, realizing just how overpowered this ability was. Then since the sensation wasn't multiplying his power by 6-fold, but something that he thought that the power would have done, but the power instead increased his power by 8-folds. Doing simple math, it was basically 2 to the power of number of times that he boosted. That was when Issei finally reached his limit of how much his mind was blown away. Grinning with pride in seeing his partner's mind being blown, Ddraig decided to give his partner a few moments to explosion! Never mind. Issei had already reached his limit, even with the new draconic body. Instead, Ddraig decided to give Issei a few moments to process everything that happened to him. After a little while, the ancient dragon began speaking once more. Now, onto the information you most clearly want to hear about. You see, when you were stabbed by the fallen angel, you were bleeding onto the ground. Though your determination, your efforts, and emotional state, I was awakened, Ddraig spoke in a sour tone, remembering the horrid scene that he had seen awakening. Seeing your destroyed form and knowing who had killed you, I decided that I wasn't going to sit back and watch your very soul leave your body. I decided to pour my own essence into your body, the body that I manipulated into changing from human to dragon, to ensure you would be able to survive. I made sure to do that fast enough before your soul would leave your body. Issei hearing all this, even when he had doubts, people in being revived. Today he had already met a dragon, an ancient dragon that was said to have been fake, only parts of myth to bring pride or fear into the embrace of warriors that found said creatures, so it wasn't far-fetched that this dragon had revived him. So, I'm a dragon. Is there a weakness to being a dragon? Ddraig nodded. Being as old as he was, he gave him the advantage of very patient, of the many hosts that he had over the many years. It was why he decided to have a long, detailed conversation with his host about what he was finally becoming a part of. Dragons are weak to dragon-slaying weapons. Just from the name alone, you should know these weapons are lethal to us dragons. However, there is one thing that should be mentioned. If we become strong enough, even these dragon-slaying weapons won't have much of effect upon us. So, the stronger we become, the more resistant we become to these lethal weapons. The ancient dragon nodded to what Issei said. You're taking this far more effectively than my other host, Ddraig thought, while watching his partner getting into position to celebrate. Before Issei could celebrate, And not only being alive, but also being a dragon, Ddraig had continued into what he wanted to know. However, when reviving you, something strange had happened. Issei instantly raised a brow before Draig's flames ceased to exist from the wave of the mighty dragon's hand. The first thing that occurred with you is that your draconic body was being altered due to your strong negative emotions. Slowly, you began transforming from a regular dragon to an evil dragon. These type of dragons are known for mass destruction and cruelty. However, some are forced into such state due to traumatic events and are cursed with being one for eternity, which is what happened to you. Once hearing that, Issei gritted his teeth upon knowing who had caused him this. Ddraig could feel the emotions of his partner, which had led him into changing the subject into what interested him more, about the changes that Issei had felt. Another thing had also occurred when changing your body into one of the dragon. Issei, do you feel anything bizarre within you? Anything that is wanting to be released inside your body? Come to think of it, when waking up, there is a very small odd sensation, a sensation of pain inside where my heart is. I didn't seem to notice it during our conversation, but the sensation had weakened. Do you know what that is? Well, here goes nothing. I want you to close your eyes and begin dragging out that sensation. Focus on where the power is coming from. Issei did exactly that. Once again, focus on where the sensation is coming from and slowly draw it out. You'll know if you've done it correctly once you've produced some flames. Issei began feeling the sensation, pinpointing the area of where the burning sensation was coming from. Issei slowly began focusing on drawing the power out to his hands. However, due to his precision and skill being lackluster, instead of bringing out a small portion of the power out, he instead surrounded his whole entire body with the same royal bluish flames that he initially had brought out when unlocking his aura. This is when Issei began feeling pain all over his entire body, beginning to scream in dire pain, with his draconic traits taking over his voice, forcing him to roar like a dragon. All it became a small dragon. Ddraig, once hearing his partner in pain, instantly knocked his partner out cold. Damn, I should have known to train you in controlling your magic as I tried to see a small peek of your aura. Almost got you killed. Ddraig began seeing his partner to disappear. It was time for him to wake up in the real world. However, that will have to wait for your little reunion with your parents. With that, Issei began disappearing into the real world. Immediately upon disappearing from his mindscape, Issei shot up awake while staring straight at the wall in his hospital room. To his surprise, he was indeed alive, and whatever he experienced with the dragon in his mind, Issei wanted to believe that it was a dream, but knowing that he was indeed killed by a fallen angel, he remembered feeling the pain before being killed, and he was still alive must mean that Ddraig indeed had revived him. Smart thinking, keep it up and you'll be able to impress me. Hear the same deep dark voice from the dragon before he was transported to the real world. Issei quickly was going to respond until the dragon interrupted him. I suggest speaking with your mind instead of talking out loud. You don't want another reason to stay in this room, do you? Issei was left thinking to himself. Speak with his mind? What did that mean? Did he mean by using his thoughts to communicate with Ddraig? Alright, Ddraig, can you hear me? Loud and clear, partner. What should I do first? I'm guessing that the situation with the fallen angel will only get worse since I am still alive. Do you think I will have time to leave town for a little while? I can't leave my parents alone here. What if they come after them? Calm down, partner. For now, take another 2 weeks off from school. We will have to organize a plan for you to gain footing in the supernatural world. Speaking of breaks, here come your parents. The moment Ddraig stopped speaking was the moment that the door to the hospital busted wide open and Mama Hyodo came rushing in. Upon seeing her son alive and well, she quickly rushed towards Issei and leaped into the air, driving straight toward Issei for a hug, and she successfully did catch him in a hug and began sobbing into his chest. Thank the Lord for this. My son is alive. My son is alive. My baby boy is alive. She continued repeating 3 phases while sobbing for a while. Issei had never seen his mother this hurt before. Miki, Goro Hyodo came in, charging into well to see the scene with his wife hugging his son, who was awake and seemingly healthy. Damn, you little brat. You had us worried for multiple months. Goro, trying to sound tough, just couldn't hold it anymore and soon began sobbing as well. The family was together once more, alive and healthy. Nevertheless, the changes will become apparent soon enough. However, that was the situation for another time for both Miki and Goro Hyodo. Quickly, they began bombarding Issei with questions. Issei, what happened to you? Why were you in this condition? Miki asked him, innocently not knowing that just one phrase brought him one terrible pain of just remembering that woman who killed him. I just got dumped on the way back home. Something happened to my body that caused immense pain. That's all I remember. Hoping that they would take the information truthfully, Mikihito wasn't entirely convinced. What caused the pain in your body? I don't know what did. It was if it randomly happened. But, Mickey, Garo calmly placed his hand on his wife's shoulder before looking at her with a small smile. Let's deal with that later. Maybe Issei doesn't want to speak currently about this issue. Let's be grateful that he's alive. Mikihito instantly nodded and pushed her questions aside. The Yodo family was finally a happy family of 3 once more. After many months of suffering for parents, they had heard from the doctors from many times that their son could potentially be stuck in a permanent coma, which had devastated the family many times. But the parents stood strong in hopes for their son. The doctors had reported many times that their son was healing from some kind of internal damage that he sustained very slowly, and their son would potentially even be permanently damaged for life if he woke up. But the Hyodos stood strong in their dreams for their son, and when they heard the news of their son finally waking up early in the morning, let's just say that the entire neighborhood could hear a woman screaming in joy for the entire day. After finally leaving the hospital, Issei was finally well on his back home. However, the same thought was still lingering in the back of his mind. What would he do when he sees this woman again? Ddraig was seeing through Issei's thoughts silently, while thinking of a potential idea. What if his family went on a 2-week vacation to a different city and got the time being? No way. Having Issei in this territory would cause no conflict. The high-class demons that he was sensing in the territory and fallen angels in this territory would all immediately antagonize Issei due to the uncertainty of how he lived through being killed. This time, for another dragon to rise from the ashes to ascend the divine was coming, and Issei sure as hell has an amazing teacher for that. However, while driving back home, Issei could see through the window of many civilians enjoying their day, walking around, talking with each other, and dating each other. Nevertheless, Issei would always be reminded of his pain, but it was worsened when he would look directly at a woman smiling because, why? Issei would always be reminded of that woman. Why? Her smile was so sincere and loving. Please, why? Yet it was all a farce. Issei slowly, without even knowing it, began sobbing. It was fun. The short time I spent with you was like playing house with a little child. Issei remembers those words when she transformed into a fallen angel. It hurt Issei to remember the look she gave him. It was all a game. Issei couldn't stop staring at all those around. They were having a blast. Issei, would you die for me? Those words still haunt him, especially when her smile quickly began changing to a facial expression of disgust. I should have known. I was always destined to be alone. Ddraig was hearing all this with his jaws clenching with pure hatred. He had never such treacherous acts by a fallen angel, especially when his partner was the one that was being fooled. Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I did not expect this story to be super, that good. And it is. It's really good, and this is pretty entertaining. And that's where we're going to be stopping for now. We read about 2 chapters for now. This is somewhat of a short, okay, I can't say 7 hours is short, but it's still, it's extremely entertaining, and I really do enjoy reading the story, obviously, so far. I think his unique power and abilities and how the story is going is much better than him just being extremely overpowered, or happening right after the Triaxa, and it's not Rias betraying him, it's Rainier, which, I think what it should have been in the first place, so it's kind of a break between all the Rias betrayed stories, because I know my audience has grown a strong hate for Rias, and that is from my internal monologuing of that's just how I read, though. I try to put a lot of emotion into the reading, and I know that caused a lot of hate for Rias because usually the story's about her betraying him. And yeah, they were fun, and I'm probably going to still keep doing them, but I don't actually hate Rias. Let's just get that out of the way. But thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the support. And I know if you guys are still in the premiere right now, which hopefully you still are, please hit the like button, okay? That would be very amazing. And hopefully you guys click the little boot button to become a channel member today. That'd be absolutely amazing. And once again, I was gone for a pretty long... I'd say, even though I uploaded, 1 time throughout that month, I was basically gone for 2 months. And man, did I have a lot of shit to deal with at school. It wasn't even funny. I mean, your boy has made the dean's list. I got all A's and B's. And, I was on the grind completely. I'm actually injured right now. I almost broke my toe 2 days ago because I dropped a 25 metal plate on it. Or I didn't really, it slid off the bar and dropped on my foot. And I basically dropped it on my foot Well, I really didn't. I mean, I don't know how to describe that. Either way, I got on my foot, and you could like see the bone and everything, and somehow my toe didn't break because you know your boy has high durability. And now I'm messing around, but now I'm out of commission for like another 2 weeks. And all I ever wanted to do was train, and now I have to finally sit down and like think. And so that's where this situation has led me for now. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for all the support that's been going on. We hit 100,000 once again on Ampalpowski, and we hit probably 57,000 by the time I upload this video on Spartanic Arts DxD. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this part 1, and part 2 is definitely going to be, I'm going to try to upload almost every single day all the way up until Christmas, which is about 5 days away. I'll even upload on Christmas probably. Christmas special. But yeah, so thank you so much for the support, ladies and gentlemen. And without any further ado, Spartanic Arts DxD.